I have no idea why this turned into an I Dream of Jeannie sing-along song, but it did. It did indeed. Hang on, let me do a little more adjusting. I'm coming. You know, every time I walk away from my computer for a bit, I always want to go back and redo a few things. And one of the things I want to redo is this. No, not that. Maybe it's this. Where's the one I want to redo? Is it this? Where's the redo? Oh, was that it? Was that it right there? Yeah. That was it. Oh, that was the redo. That was the redo I was looking for. Now I can come over here and redo this and say, hi, good morning. Welcome to Podcast Pontifications, the live taping thereof. My name is Evo Terra. I appreciate you joining me on this Wednesday. Did you miss me over the week? So Monday was a holiday in the United States of America specifically. I'm not sure about the Canadian Americans and the Mexican Americans because, we're all part of the same continent. Anyhow. But it was a holiday in America on Monday, and yesterday I decided to also take a holiday. So my wife and I were traveling back from visiting friends in California, so there was no episode yesterday of Podcast Pontifications. So you didn't miss it. I missed it, and therefore everyone missed it. Just noticing how crazy my hair is this morning, trying to get that a little bit under control. Good morning, Arlen Amber. Good morning, Betty Danowitz, and good morning again, Arlen Amber. Yes, I'm glad you are all here with me today. Thanks for hanging out. Yep, show continues apace. It was just take a little bit of a break. I was thinking about doing an episode ahead of time, but best laid plans of mice and men, roads to hell or paved. I don't remember the metaphor, but it was something out there. Hey, today on the program we're going to talk about adding teeth to podcasting's intimacy. Promise. Oh, do you hear that? That's your air conditioner. But check this out. Hey Google, change the temperature to 25. Bingo. She's cranked it up. 25 degrees Celsius. It's only like 23 in here Celsius right now, so that will not kick back on. Yay. So we're talking about, there's that thing in podcasting about intimacy, and we're going to talk about it today. I'm going to take a critical look at the concept of podcast intimacy. Hope that you all enjoy it. For the first timers out there, this is just me rambling. You're thinking this is the podcast? No. This is not the podcast. This is, in fact, me just rambling for the first few minutes of the show while I say good morning to my peoples. Yes, I know, Betty, it does sound a little bit dirty. Wait till you see the artwork. It's a bit of a double entendre. Anyhow, back to the new people for just a moment here. Yeah, this is just pre-show. This is where I talk to the fine folks like Betty and Arlen who like to watch me do this live, get the vocal pipes all cleared out, ready to go, and just generally, show you a behind the scenes, what it's like to actually do the podcasting here. I'm going to start the real live content in about another minute or two, and I'm pretty good about the one-takey type thing. So you see a little bit of behind the scenes stuff. This show is probably behind the scenes. It's not like it's compiled out of 16 different segments or anything crazy like that. But anyhow, no, this is just me rambling, and as you can hear, I haven't taken a breath in around 45 minutes, so I probably should do that now. Get the tongue loosened up before the real program begins, is what this is all about. But here's the deal. If you want to skip all of this rambly stuff and you just want the meat, go. Podcastpontifications.com is where you want to go. Get on the mailing list. I have a bunch of new people to add to the mailing list. I think I just broke 400. Yay! While I was away. So I have some new people to add. So if you are on the mailing list and you haven't received your stuff yet, I promise to add it today before I publish today's newsletter. And the newsletter, for the uninitiated, is just simply a rewritten article. All the words I'm about to say, I rewrite them. Yes, and so that you can read them with your eyeballs, which sounds quite different than going into your ear holes. That's what goes on the newsletter. Right, so, okay, I think I'm good. I think I'm cleared out. I think I'm ready to go. We'll do this thing and see if we can do an episode, shall we? Let's get it underway. All right, so I don't need to see that anymore. Although, you know what? That's frozen. Let's just make sure things are working good. Let me refresh, restream, because it likes to freeze on me. Are we unfrozen? Checking. We are unfrozen. We are indeed unfrozen. Awesome. All right, so I will now slide this over here. Whoop, hang on, too far. There we go. And I will adjust it down so that it looks like I'm getting kind of close to the camera. And I will read to you my cold open. Cold open is just simply this. If you haven't heard the phrase, podcasting is an intimate medium, then you must be new. Can this reported intimacy ever be anything more than just an empty promise made by podcast advertising advocates? Good question. Okay, let's do this. Where's QuickTime? There you are. And OBS, ready to go. All right, turn my phone around so I don't look at it. I've moved the chat window off. All right, let's do this thing. If you haven't heard the phrase, podcasting is an intimate medium, well, then you must be new. Can this reported intimacy ever be anything more than just an empty promise made by podcasting advertising advocates? Hello and welcome to another Podcast Pontifications with me, Evo Terra. Now, if you're playing the podcast drinking game at home where you drink every time someone says podcasting is an intimate medium, you may want to sit this one out. I'm going to take a somewhat critical look at that much lauded phrase and a little bit of a cliche. I don't want you to be too tipsy before the show is over, right? Let's start here. Podcasters who are able to buy their way into tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands of downloads, they don't really care about intimacy. For them, it's a reach game. The more people that they can reach with their show, the more ads they can sell to their show, whether they're intimately involved with it or not. So no, they don't really care about intimacy. Although, that's not completely true. Because there's a collective need across the people who are able to get tens or hundreds or millions of downloads to their shows. There's a need to keep CPMs, the price of an ad, high. Which, by the way, they're not doing a very good job of. I mean, CPM rates are relatively stagnant across the board. Have you seen a slew of reports talking about how CPMs have increased from an average of $20 to $30, let's say, in the last decade? I haven't really either. I know they happen in isolation, but overall, kind of the same thing. But the idea is to convince advertisers that podcasting is an intimate medium. They need to do that to get those advertisers to spend more money on podcasting, right? And that is more or less working. Total ad spend in podcasting does continue to increase, and new advertisers enter the market all the time. Great. So think about that for a second. But also think about this. The opposite, however, is broadly assumed to be true. And that is that shows with more modest audiences tend to have more niche audiences where, really, intimacy can reign true. But does it really? I mean, what's our measuring stick to determine whether or not we're getting more intimacy from our people? I mean, it's not downloads. Downloads do not measure intimacy, especially since around a third of downloads are automated and may not be listened to ever. I don't even think it's consumption rate, which services like Apple Podcasts and Spotify and Google Podcasts will tell us how much of our episodes listeners tend to consume. I don't think that's it, or at least it's not necessarily giving us the answer we're looking for. Is there a correlation between consumption rate and intimacy? I mean, there might be, but anecdotally, I've seen a huge increase in the number of requests for podcast recommendations where people only want something to listen to in the background while they study or they work or they do some other sort of brain-intensive activity where they're not intimately engaged with their content. They just need some noise. And then there's all the shows, all the people who say, hey, I need something to fall asleep to. Can you recommend a podcast? The podcast stats we have today don't really tell us how or even if people are engaging with our content. We don't have it. We don't have repeated listener-initiated plays. We don't get that kind of detail. We don't really know. Where's like the time to listen number? Like from the time an episode was published to somebody actually listened to it. We don't have it. What about listeners or listens per unique user? How many times does a unique listener listen to that episode again and again and again? We don't know. Or some sort of a loyalty rating. How many different episodes does a loyal listener consume? We don't know. Any of those things would likely get us to an understanding so we could answer the question, is in fact podcasting an intimate medium? But our industry isn't really set up to report on that. I mean, the IAB takes the A in their name seriously. The IAB is Internet Advertising. Advertising. And advertisers don't care about intimacy. They tell us they do, but they really don't. They care about results. How well do the campaign perform? And in lieu of results, they care about benchmarking their spending activity so they're not spending too much or too little in a certain medium. Also, we have the problem with privacy issues. Privacy issues make everything I just talked about really challenging to get to. To understand the intimacy is almost, or as some will definitely say, an invasion of privacy. Now, personally, I do not care. Who knows what episodes I listen to and what episodes I skip and for how often, but I'm also know that that's just me. And I understand that how that information could almost be weaponized or used in nefarious ways. So I don't know that we're going to ever see it. But I also wonder, what would we do if we knew? Specifically, what would you do if you could measure some sort of intimacy rating either with your episodes or with your listeners themselves? Would it change how you produced your podcast and the episodes of your podcast? I wonder. Or would you just simply immediately start comparing yourself to the average intimacy ratings, the same way we compare our own download numbers or CPM rates? I am actually genuinely curious what you would do if you could see, either by listener or by episode, some sort of an intimacy rating, a number that you could trust. Email that to me, would you? Email me your thoughts, evo@simpler.media. I'll compile them and we'll come back and revisit this another episode in the future. Or if you want, you can share your thoughts on this in the Advancing Podcasting community at advancingpodcasting.xyz. Let's do a few boostergrams, shall we? Thank you very much to Mr. Brad Terpak. Brad is my newest virtual coffee member. That's right. He went to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra, signed up for a monthly recurring coffee donation. Thank you very much, sir. Also, hello and thank you, Seth Goldstein, he left a review previously for Podcast Pontifications. He's gone one step further and actually bought a virtual coffee for me, so I certainly appreciate that. And if you received any value today out of today's episode, please return some of that value. You can go to buymeacoffee.com/evoterra, just like Brad and Seth both did. Thank you very much. Or if you're using one of the new fancy podcast listening apps, you'll find them at newpodcastapps.com. Be sure to set it up to actually stream some value to me, a few sats at a time, and that'll make a lot more sense once you get there, or it won't. But if it does, be sure to set it up to stream some stats to me, or send a boost along with the message. And with that, I shall be back tomorrow with yet another podcast, Pontifications. Cheers. Video recording is off. Audio recording is off. And now we go back to the screen. Boom, ba-doom, boom, ba-doom, boom, boom. So there you go. thinking about intimacy. What would we do if we really knew what it was? All of that stuff. And if you are just now tuning into the live stream, well, you missed it. And while you could back up 15 minutes and 2 seconds to watch the whole thing at the beginning, you don't have to. You can just go to podcastpontifications.com where you will see this whole thing. It's going to happen. We'll see it and hear it and read it. All of that's happening 10 o'clock today. I'll do you one better. Go to that website, podcastpontifications.com, click the big subscribe button and drop in your email address, and you will get an email at 10 a.m. Phoenix time today that has every word I just said aloud rewritten, so it's much, much easier to consume with your eyeballs. There'll be a link in that same email to the audio file, which makes it super easy to forward along to someone in your life who needs to hear the message. And again, I think I just hit 400 subscribers to the newsletter. Woohoo! I'm excited. Thank you very much for that. Over the weekend, which I will get adding to right now. But that is it. I shall let you go. Enjoy the rest of your day. We shall do this again tomorrow. Shall we? We shall. Bye.